Ladies and gentlemen, indeed, it is a rare privilege and an honor to have a mixed breed, students, older colleagues, and people who have shared experience in different theaters of life, in different countries here, Ukraine, Africa, Uganda, all over. Select group here to listen to me at this point in time when Africa is at crossroads. Somebody mentioned while we were in the other section, what is needed in Africa is not just too much of talk. We need to have a change. We need to have institutions and systems that work, that have sense of mission, that have goals, that enjoy legitimacy and acceptance of the people, that encourage good governance, that provide the needs of people. Let me start by reminding you that exactly 167 years ago, one of the African countries that was not colonized, Liberia, was born. Exactly 1847. Free slaves from here moved to settle in Africa. They established from the coastline and had 5 different counties extending 15 miles inside. The rest of Liberia was divided into East, Central, and Western territories. For these 167 years, there are today hardly institutions and systems, whether you call it healthcare, that can take basic care of the needs of people. Neither do you have structures, executive, legislative body, non-governmental organizations that cooperate with one another to serve the basic needs of people, putting life together. That is Liberia, 1847. And United States have a state. The name Monrovia, the capital of Liberia, was taken from name James Monroe, one of the presidents of this country, from Monroe to Monrovia. So there are many American Liberians, both in Liberia and here. The world is connected. It's not just, it's not just Liberia. Liberia has strong linkages with the United States, just as we have strong linkages with one another all over the place. Okay. So this is it not working? Hello, is it working? Okay. So Liberia came into existence in 1847. But the 3 other African countries that were colonized started the march to independence in the 40s. And Ghana, 57 years ago, became the first black West African country to be independent, 1957. Exactly October 1, 1960, when I was a young man of 19, you can now determine my age. Young man of 19, Nigeria became independent, October 1, 1960. This was followed quickly by countries like Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal under Senghor, Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo under Patrice Lumumba, Kenya. I was in Kenya in 1962. They were preparing under Jomo Kenyatta. Some of my generation witnessed this movement. 64, Kenya became independent. Uganda, under Milton Obote, followed. What of Zambia? There's under Kenneth Kaunda. These were very happy news all over Africa. Some others followed. Central African Republic, they all followed. But what had happened? Flag independence. 60 years, 50 years after. For Liberia, 167 years after. What is the actual condition of institutions of governance in our country, in our continent? Many Africans who are here. What is really the situation? The situation is not something to write home about, because you cannot really pursue development without having institutions, government, political parties, legislatures, without having systems that can transit from one another, without violence, where leadership can change, where sovereignty belongs to the people. If the people cannot, during the electoral process, change their leaders through peaceful method, you are not there. And that's where we are today. How do we change political leadership? Because if leaders cling to power, they will be there not in the interest of the people, but interest of other interests. You will now find that the process of building institutions is still at infant stage in Black Africa. Institutions with legitimacy, deriving acceptance from the people. The situation is made worse because of the current revolution in information technology. Young people all over Africa, West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, North Africa, as a result of social media, they know what is happening in the US, they know what is happening in Asia, Malaysia, they know what is happening in Thailand. They can communicate overnight. They want good life. They want basic things of life. They want to go to school. They want after school days employment. They want good job. They want peace and order. They want to be respected as individuals, as you contribute your quota to society. They want basic amenities. And that's why they rush to come to United States and other parts of developed world, Europe. When we have abundant natural resources, human resources, natural resources, mineral resources, and all that is required is managing these resources in the interest of the public, interest of the people. See all the minerals, all mineral from Angola to Nigeria to Ghana, Equatorial Guinea, mention it all over. See the agricultural land where Africa can be part of the food basket of the world. Why should Africa, it is shameful, import rice from Thailand, from China, from India, after China have fed its 1-point-something billion people? They will still send rice to Africa. Malaysia took product of palm produce in the 60s that now produce almost 27 byproducts of palm oil. But Nigeria imports part of its palm oil. You can see that something is wrong. Having institutions that work, systems that work, leadership that is committed to the interests of the people, and having a system of changing this leadership when people want to change it, every 4 years, every 5 years. Because if these systems do not change, if you have leaders that cling to power, then nothing will happen. Why have these things not happened? Why are we not developed as the countries in Asia, Malaysia, those that gained independence at the same time with us? Why have we not developed the institutions? Why is there no electoral reforms? Why are elections rigged? Are expectations of our people unreal? Are they far-fetched? If you ask me, I will say that they are not far-fetched. Young men in Africa, like their counterparts, in Europe, in Asia, anywhere, expect what you expect. They are real. You should have jobs as your counterparts are having elsewhere. Why are these changes not happening? Why are elections rigged? So the first part of this paper, why elections are rigged, institutions not built, we dwell on the problems, why these things do not happen. The second part of this paper, I will quickly run through what I did when I was appointed chairman of National Electoral Commission in Nigeria, which I served between 1989 and 1993. The kind of reforms, the kind of demand I made from those who appointed me. If you want me to serve, these are the conditions. If you accept, I would serve. If you don't accept, I will not serve. But the first part is, why have we not institutions, systems that respond to the needs of people? The first of it all is what I call lack of political will. The leadership, the current leadership in Africa, some of them do not have strong political will to carry out necessary political reform. Take some of the leaders. Many were overthrown by coup, because when they got in there, they manipulate the system in such a way that when election is done, the person is elected by 99%, 80%. Opposition is squeezed out of the way. And when you have a leader that is determined to be there 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, just take checklist of African leaders that were overthrown by the military. They overstayed. That of Nigeria, 1966. Take Milton Obote, Uganda, what happened? Take Nkrumah, what happened? Some even are so strong that if you try the coup, you cannot succeed. Take Zimbabwe. I think it's about 90. Every effort, every election, he had managed to be there. So When you have a political leader that is determined, that lacks political will to serve the interest of the people, to effect change, you cannot have stable political order. You cannot have electoral reform. Because if you have electoral reform, it will mean power belongs to the people. And if you want to have a democratic political order, you have to have a vibrant political system, especially two-party structure, that each can be alternative to the other. That's where, in Africa, having that alternative political power to take power from whoever incumbent, check the list, is very difficult. To have elective leader that gradually will submit himself to a change. The only person that did it very well, Leopold Senghor, when election was conducted peacefully, he handed over. So first is lack of political will to have a change, to have a reform. Secondly is the issue of ethnic and primordial groups. Unfortunately for us, we have many small and large ethnic groups with ethnic homeland. Each of them with traditional loyalty, not to the central political authority, but to their ethnic homeland. Even in a big country like Nigeria, you have 3 dominant ethnic groups, so large, so powerful, that they are bigger than smaller nations like Equatorial Guinea, like Sierra Leone, bigger than Liberia, bigger than Gabon. Take the Igbos, the Yorubas, and Hausas in Nigeria. Out of Nigeria's estimated population of 170 million, Igbos claim, sometimes they claim is 40 million, the other one will claim they are bigger. And you find in Nigeria politics, one of the major controversial issues is census figure, not electoral reform. You may be talking here, how do you have electoral reform? Why the 3 most dominant ethnic groups will be concerned about their sizes? Why does it matter? Their sizes, it matters because whoever controls the federal government will control what in Nigeria is called national cake. If you control it, you can then control federal public service, you can determine the number of people who will be in the army, so many things will happen. And the smaller ethnic groups will be struggling to align with one group or the other. And you will find all the elections in Nigeria in 1959, in 1964, in 1979, in 1983, organized by civilians. They were all manipulated, rigged. And the political parties were based on these large ethnic blocks. Still illustrating from Nigeria, and it happens in most other African countries, but that of Nigeria is much more pronounced. In Nigeria, the first effort to form political parties, NCNC derived its support from the Igbos, Action Group from the Yorubas, MPC from the Hausas. So the struggle, electoral reform, was not a major concern. Neither having appropriate democratic political order wasn't a major concern. So you find where ethnic groups who are in various stages of social mobilization, in various stages of struggle, in various stages of competition for national cake, they sometimes block electoral reform. And I will talk more when I come to my experience carrying out electoral reform in Nigeria, what happened, and what lessons Africans can derive from my experience in Nigeria. Okay, that's ethnic groups. 3, there is also resurgence of military dictatorship. For a long time, you find most of African states were dominated by military dictatorship. Military dictatorships, they are not interested in democracy. They are not interested in reform. But once in a while, like the one we served under, try to carry out reform. I will emphasize why that was the case and what happened when they did. Because military regimes, in a sense, are part and parcel of indigenous population. And where they really determined to make a change, like they did in Turkey, Ataturk, they could make a change. They could make a difference. So you find dictatorship, dominant party system, controlled by ethnic groups, block electoral reform, block having a vibrant alternative political parties, or having national parties that derive their root from the entire nation, that give loyalty, legitimacy to central political authority. Once that is not the case, once the central authority does not derive its legitimacy, acceptance from generality of the people, then you can hardly have any electoral reform or vibrant democratic political order. Let me go to what we do in order to be like other nations of the world. Because there have been series of conferences, series of lectures, series of concerns about what should be done. Okay.
No, just use it.
Okay. In 1989, the military regime in Nigeria under General Babangida, by radio, without consultation, appointed me as chairman, National Electoral Commission. That is the election management body in Nigeria. The name is National Electoral Commission. I was appointed. It's not like here, sometimes you are consulted. Do you want this? I was returning with my wife from postgraduate lecture, and we stopped to pick one or two things in a store. Somebody came by my car and said, "Congratulations." I said, "For what?" The person thought I was joking.
Then, soon after I got home, one of my children who said, "Yo, you were appointed this," and that's where media, the Guardian representative, one of the foremost newspapers in Nigeria, rushed to me. "What will you do as Chairman National Electoral Commission?" I said, "You made me Chairman Electoral Commission of what? What do you mean?" He said, "Haven't you heard? This is where military, especially in African countries or third world countries, sometimes they behave." So it turned out to be true. What did I do? When I met the president, I said, for most people, they will say military cannot effect a change. Earlier on, my predecessor in office was sacked. And I could be sacked. And I decided, why did you sack my predecessor? And why do you think I could do the job better? He said, you have had some stint of public service, serving as commissioner for local government, dealing with people, chieftaincy, commissioner for agriculture. We think you can deal with the people, deal with politicians, you can bring credibility to this. I said, "Sir, if you want me to do this, you know Nigerians do not have confidence in the military. They think you will manipulate the election. 2, Nigerians do not have confidence in the electoral system, especially the secret ballot system. The secret ballot system, there is nothing wrong with it anywhere. This is what is used here. Electronic voting, you go there, you touch the button, you vote for whichever candidate you want. But often, it was not the case in Nigeria. During 1959 election, or 64, or 79, in fact, it was so manipulated in 1983 that there were a series of violence all over that led to the military takeover, because people were complaining. So with the manipulation of the electoral process, people lost confidence. Whenever you mention secret ballot, in Nigeria, people would remember at once fake ballot papers. People will enter into that closet and dump in. Some political parties will manipulate it, especially where you have a dominant one-party influence in particular area, because they are dominant in different areas of the country. They can dump it, sometimes pour acid, sometimes carry it away, sometimes do all manner of things. People may not understand what really happened. Well, as a political scientist, and as a Nigerian, I was aware of all this. I said, "Sir, these things happen, but we have to stop it." I said, okay. As a political scientist, and this is where academicians and where the media and where all people have commitment to make a change in Africa. It's not just a question of military. Circumstances vary from one country to another, one area to another. So, if I have to accept this job, I don't want to be sacked, although in the end, something happened. You would give me a free hand to institute electoral reform, to restore confidence that when people make their choices should stand. And if their choices stand, then you can hope for good governance. You can hold the people accountable. The people can deliver. And when they don't deliver, you can, of course, change that group. And changing it means having two parties that can be alternative to one another. You can see these things are correlated. It's not just a question of saying, oh, it has to be democracy, you start anything you like. Certain conditions have to exist for it to work. He said, okay, whatever you think you can do to restore confidence in the system, I give you a free hand. Especially making people to believe that when they go to elect, whatever they decided will prevail. They said, okay, will you back this with money so that you don't stab me or fund? Because military is capable, because they control the media, they control everything. He promised he will do that. He said, go and do it. We will support you. And in any case, if we sack you, people will lose confidence in our electoral reform, in all that we're doing, transition to civil rule, that we will give you a free hand. Go and do whatever you can do to restore confidence into the ballot box system, in the electoral system. I accepted. The first thing we did was to reorganize the Electoral Commission, NEC. Because in the past, all the electoral bodies were made of ad hoc bodies selected from different civil service, state civil service, regional service, and when they are, after election, they are dismissed, especially when the political policy makers are dismissed, the commissioners, everything goes. There is no basic data on the election. They said, okay, allow me to get young administrative officers, managers, to reorganize the commission. That was done. So, following the steps, first thing we did is to reorganize the commission, to make it a vibrant, effective management organization. Reorganize it, Department of Finance, personnel, I have logistics, also I have the think tank, research, so that you can relate with people and know what the people wanted. So that was done. He supported me. 2, the headquarters of the commission was under a bridge in Lagos. I said this cannot be, because the staff, when you are walking under the bridge, if anything collapses, you could, he said, enough fund was provided. I moved. I provided sufficient of office and living accommodation for the staff of the commission in Abuja. And what we did, you can still see that there. In Abuja, we built a 6-story building as headquarters. Out of the money I saved from other sources, not from the government even itself. That's where the present INEC is there. I had money I built for staff, because anyone who knows Nigeria knows that the problem of our headquarters in Abuja is problem of small people, junior people, where you live, how you come to work, and so on. I have to provide permanent junior staff accommodation for the staff of the commission, for the national commissioners, for the state offices, for local government offices, where elections are really organized and carried out. So that was done, our accommodation. Then it comes to election itself. Before the election, Nigeria had, as I alluded before, dominant political system based on ethnic group and primordial groups. How do you do away with this? Because if the government set up in 1985 a commission made up of people, sociology, professors, Nigerians, what do you want? Nigerians said they wanted two party structure that can be alternative to one another. If they lose confidence in this one, the other one can form the government. And this is where democracy thrives better. And this is where you have a stable political order, where you have a system of party structure where one, if you lose, the other one can take over the reins of government. But it's lacking in many countries in Africa. It's only places like Ghana, few places you can now think of vibrant alternative party to government party. I wanted so. We wanted so. I convinced the military it was necessary that we have that kind of system. So how do we start it? Because democracy means in forming political parties, it's voluntary association. Okay? My commission was given the mandate to organize political associations that out of which we had parameters. One, membership must be drawn from all over Nigeria, not based on ethnic group or religious group. That's one parameter. Two, you must have structure. From what? In Nigeria then, we had 6,927 wards. Each party must have a structure, starting from the ward through local government, state, to the national headquarters. So, three, each of the parties should have offices all over Nigeria, not in particular area. And membership should spread in all these areas. Four, policies you carry out should be Nigerian-wide policies, whether it's agriculture, economics, that. So, Nigerians were given opportunity to form political associations, out of which two nationally oriented party will emerge, so that you have a vibrant party structure that can be alternative to one another. Those associations were formed. Do you know what they did? They took our voters register, copied the names, because they tried to encourage membership. You know it is hard, really, to convince people to be members of political parties. In any case, 13 such associations emerged. And they gave us their statistics about membership, about their party offices at local government level, at state level, that we can verify. They thought we wouldn't do that. Under my leadership of NEC, we got helicopters, we got ships, we got everywhere. 1/3 of what each of these 13 associations submitted, we verified and discovered none of the 13 associations had a national political party that cut across ethnic, state, regional boundaries. They were all localized. The same thing which Obasanjo tried to do in 79, they repeated. There was some Igbo party, Yoruba party, Hausa party. When we verified and gave our statistics to government, none of them had national spread enough to be alternative, to be, unless you want to ignore the maladies and recognize any two. None of them had up to 50% from what we did. They never knew we would do that. And this is where really building institutions vary from one environment to another. The government, the military government, had no option than to help
Nigerians to start a two-party structure that could cut across ethnic, regional, state, and regional and religious boundaries, primordial boundaries. They did. And they named it SDP, Social Democratic Party.